Welcome to this session on Python programming, where we focus on data types. A data type refers to the way the computer understands and processes data. It's the description of data that is stored in computer memory. Now, that could be a variable, a list, or an array. Whatever data structure you use, it describes the value that is held in that data structure. Data types ensure the correct amount of memory size is allocated to computer memory. It also helps us ensure that we have the correct data for different types of processes, such as calculations. We wouldn't want to use text for calculations. We'd want to use numbers. And by qualifying the kind of data we're using, we ensure that the computer has the right type of data for the right type of process. In this session, we'll be looking at the most basic data types in Python. And the three most basic data types we'll be talking about today will be string, integer, and float data types. The string data type are alphanumeric characters enclosed in quotes. So in this example, the variable name is bound or holds the value Ben. The string value Ben is enclosed in quotes to tell Python that this is a string. Now we use the term bound to say that the value Ben is bound to the variable name, or is attached or is associated with a variable name. Again, the enclosure in quotes tells Python that this is a string. The function, we'll talk about functions in a later session, input, automatically assumes that the value being taken and associated with a variable is a string by default. The integer data type is a whole number. So for example, in this example, age, the variable age, receives the value, the whole number value 18. So the value 18, the integer value 18, is bound to age. Now, in this example, input takes in the integer value. Now we have to specify that this is an integer value because, as we said before, input automatically assumes that the value it's receiving is a string. But when we qualify and say no, you must receive an int. The input must be of value integer. This tells Python that the value it's receiving is an integer value. And as we've said, an integer value or data type is a whole number. In the float data type is a data type with is a number that has a decimal place. So in this example, we have the variable volume, which takes the float data type 18.0, it's a number with a decimal place, and takes this value into the variable volume. (18.0). Now, so the value volume is bound to the value 18.0 is bound to the variable volume. Again, because input assumes by default that the data type it's receiving is a string, we have to qualify and specifically tell it, no, you will be receiving a float data type. Let's take a look at how Python works with data types. So here we have the variable total, and if we say 7, the integer value 7 plus the integer value 7, and then we run this program, we're asking it to print total, we can see here that it gives us the value, outputs the value 14. However, if we change this and say keep it like this, 7 plus 7, Python realizes that this is a string value and should output the string 7 plus 7. And as we can see here, it does that. It realizes because of the enclosed quotes, these are not integer values, and we're not asking it to run a calculation, but we're just asking it to output the string. However, if we change and say 7 plus 7, and then try and run that, we get an error. This is because Python realizes, this is not a string value, so they must be asking me to do a calculation. However, the alphanumeric value 7 is not a number or a float, and cannot be applied to a calculation, and therefore returns the error message the name error message, name 7 is not defined. And it is in this way that data types support calculations and output of characters to the screen.